This is a NEET 2022 question in thermodynamics. A simple question. Let us see what is this question says. It says an ideal gas undergoes four different processes from the same initial state as shown. The processes are mentioned, of course. The curve that represents adiabatic process is what? So it's a fully conceptual question. So the graph that was drawn is a PV graph. It's an ideal gas that obeys all gas laws at all temperatures and at all pressures. So what are these processes are, first of all, right? The first thing is something like, I'll start with the last one, isochoric. Isochoric process is the process in which volume of the gas or volume of the system is constant. If the volume is constant, being volume is taken on x-axis, it shall not change with respect to x-axis. Among all the graphs, if you see, this is graph 1, whose volume is fixed throughout the journey. Therefore, the 1 is the graph that represents isochoric. Next one is isobaric process. What do you mean by isobaric process? Is the process in which the pressure of the system is constant. Being the pressure is constant and that is taken on y-axis, the graph shall not vary with respect to, the pressure shall not vary with respect to the y-axis. See, here is the pressure that is constant. If you look at that carefully, for the graph 4, throughout the journey, pressure is constant. So that 4, what we have written is something like isobaric process. And there are 2 left, 3 and 2. We need to identify who is what. So for both 3 and 2, the remaining one is obviously isothermal and adiabatic. Let me explain what do you mean by isothermal and adiabatic. Isothermal is the process in which temperature of the system is kept constant. As temperature is constant, pressure of the gas is inversely proportional to volume, PV equal to constant, and that law is called something like Boyle's law. So isothermal process is the process along which the Boyle's law is very much valid. Last one is what we are talking about is adiabatic process. What do you mean by adiabatic process is, it is done in such a way that the system is a perfectly insulated system, such that heat is neither allowed to get into the system or not allowed to go out of the system. That means heat energy of the system is kept constant. As the heat energy of the system is kept constant, change in the heat energy of the system is equal to 0. But because of internal collisions, the temperature will be varying. So temperature of the adiabatic process is not constant. Isothermal process is a constant. So isothermal process, to keep the temperature constant, need to be done in a slower way, whereas adiabatic process is a quicker process. So we know in the case of adiabatic process, as the temperature is variable, PV is not constant, rather it is proved that PV power gamma is constant, where gamma is ratio of specific heats of that gas, Cp by Cv. So here PV is constant. The graph is a PV graph, of course. Here PV power gamma is constant. As extra power gamma is there in adiabatic process, the PV graph of adiabatic process, the PV graph of the adiabatic process as power extra gamma is there, where gamma is always greater than 1, is steeper, having a higher slope, having more slope. So the graph having a higher slope among 3 and 2 is, you can see this 2 1 is having more slope, is representing adiabatic process, and obviously 3 represents a isothermal process. So the answer for the adiabatic process is 2. That is, option C is the answer for the problem. That's how we solve and understand the basic concepts of thermodynamics. Thank you for watching.